My name is Audrey Troz. I am 34 years old. And on my 18th birthday, my parents sat me down at the kitchen table and handed me a gray, empty suitcase. My sister Paige got a $200,000 trust fund when she turned 18. A safety net, a future. I got 5 words from my dad. The world is your trust fund. I laughed thinking that was a joke. They did not. 16 years later, my sister's trust fund was gone. Every dollar. And I had something she did not. Something my parents could not buy her with any amount of money. When they found out what it was, my mom called me for the first time in years, not to apologize. What she asked me to do, I am still processing it. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where real family drama meets quiet strength. If you have ever been the strong one in a family that mistook your independence for not needing love, this story is going to hit close. Drop a comment below. Make sure you subscribe and stay until the end because the thing my parents needed from me, they never saw it coming. The Troz house sat on a quiet cul-de-sac in Dayton, Ohio. 3 bedrooms, white siding, a driveway. Gerald Troz sealed every spring like clockwork. My father was an engineer, precise, practical, the kind of man who alphabetized his spice rack and believed every problem had a formula. My mother, Diane, was his opposite in every visible way. But they both believed Paige needed saving. Paige turned 18 2 years before I did. Her birthday party filled the backyard. Streamers, a sheet cake from Kroger, 30 guests. Gerald stood at the head of the picnic table and handed her an envelope. Inside was a certified check for $200,000. "This is your safety net, sweetheart," he said. His voice cracked. Diane pressed both hands to her mouth and cried the way mothers cry in movies. Beautiful and rehearsed. Paige hugged him. She did not open the envelope right away. She did not need to. She already knew what was inside. 2 years later, I turned 18. No streamers, no backyard guests, just the 4 of us at the kitchen table with leftover pot roast and a bowl of green beans. Gerald set the gray Samsonite in front of my plate. It was hard shell, scuffed at the corners. The kind of suitcase you find at a garage sale for $12. The world is your trust fund, Audrey. I looked at my mother. She would not meet my eyes. I looked at Paige. She studied her green beans like they were the most interesting things she had ever seen. I laughed. A short, sharp sound that came out before I could catch it. Because what else do you do when your father hands you luggage instead of a future? They did not laugh back, and I understood. This was not a joke. This was a verdict. Gerald found me in the driveway an hour later. I was sitting on the front steps holding the suitcase handle like it might run away. "You are upset," he said, not a question. "You gave Paige $200,000. You gave me a suitcase." He sat down, smelled like Old Spice and motor oil. That was my father after shave and engines. "Paige is delicate." He said she needs a cushion, something underneath her. He looked at me, "You are like me. You will land on your feet. That is not the same thing as catching me, Dad." He did not answer that. He never answered the hard ones. Inside, Diane was washing dishes. When I came back in, she dried her hands on the towel and said, "Your father knows what is best. Paige has always been more sensitive." Sensitive, that was the word they used. Like Paige was a porcelain vase and I was a cast iron skillet. One gets a glass case, the other gets thrown in the drawer. My Aunt Margaret, Diane's younger sister, pulled me into the laundry room before I went upstairs. She smelled like dryer sheets and Chardonnay. "This is not right," Margaret whispered. "And your mother knows it." "Then why did she let it happen?" Margaret looked toward the kitchen. "Because it is easier to protect the one who screams than the one who stays quiet." Later that week, I learned from Margaret that Paige had known about the trust fund for 6 months. She and Diane had already planned how to spend the first $20,000, a down payment on a new Audi. My father did not hate me. That would have been simpler. He just genuinely believed I did not need anything. And that was worse because it meant he never looked close enough to check. I packed the gray Samsonite on a Sunday morning in August. It did not take long. 3 pairs of jeans, 5 shirts, a winter coat from Goodwill, toiletries in a Ziploc bag. Everything I owned fit inside a suitcase that cost less than Paige's birthday cake. Ohio State had offered me a partial scholarship based on my GPA. The rest I would cover myself. 3 jobs, campus library on weekdays, a coffee shop on evenings, and tutoring high school kids on weekends. $17 an hour averaged across all 3. Gerald drove me to campus, 90 minutes on I-7. He talked about tire pressure and oil changes the entire way because that was how my father showed love through maintenance tips. When he pulled up to the dorm, he left the engine running. "You will do fine, Audrey. I know." He drove away. I stood on the sidewalk holding the gray Samsonite in one hand and a box of ramen in the other. My roommate's parents were carrying a mini fridge up the stairs, both of them. Nobody called to check on me that first week. Not Gerald, not Diane. Paige sent a text. "Good luck, sis," with a star emoji, nothing else. No follow-up. No questions about my dorm or my classes or whether I had eaten anything that was not noodles. I called home once Wednesday evening. Diane picked up on the 4th ring. "Hi, Mom." "Oh, Audrey, hold on. Paige, come tell Audrey about the car." Paige got on the phone and talked for 11 minutes about the Audi she was buying with the first chunk of trust fund money. Heated seats, sunroof, glacier white metallic. She did not ask me a single question. When she handed the phone back to Diane, my mother said, "Are you eating enough?" And then before I could answer, "I have to go. Paige needs help with the insurance paperwork." I set the phone on my desk and stared at the cinder block wall of my dorm room for a long time. After that, I slid the gray suitcase under my dorm bed that night. It fit perfectly in the gap between the floor and the frame, like it was designed for that space, like it was always meant to live underneath things. That suitcase would follow me for 16 years through 4 apartments, 2 cities, law school, and a marriage. I never replaced it. Not because I could not afford a new one, because I needed to remember what empty felt like. College was a split screen. On my side, alarm at 5:15 every morning, library shift until 9, classes until 3, coffee shop until close, tutoring on Saturdays. I ate ramen 4 nights a week and splurged on a burrito on Fridays. My GPA held at 3.8 because sleep was a luxury I rationed like water in a drought. On Paige's side, Instagram told the story. Cancun in January, MCOS in June, shopping bags from Nordstrom arranged on hotel beds like trophies, captions with too many emojis and not enough self-awareness. Living my best life trust fund baby and proud. There was one photo I never forget. Paige on a yacht in the Bahamas, white bikini, champagne, Gerald and Diane on either side of her, tanned and laughing. The caption read, "Family vacay with the best parents in the world. Family vacation and I was not there. Not invited." Not mentioned in the comments. The trust fund was $200,000 when Paige turned 18. By 20, it was down to $140,000. $60,000 gone in 24 months, vacations, designer bags, a lease on an apartment she did not need because she still lived at home half the time. The Audi insurance on the Audi, a personal trainer named Marco who charged $90 an hour. I knew the numbers because Margaret told me not to gossip because she was worried. "Your parents are not saying anything," Margaret said on the phone one night. "Gerald thinks Paige will settle down. Diane thinks the money is teaching her independence." Independence, I repeated, sitting on my dorm bed in second-hand sweatpants. Right. I looked at my phone sometimes during my library shifts, scrolled past a photo of Paige in Santorini, golden hour, glass of wine, linen dress. Then I closed the app and opened my textbook. Every dollar Paige spent on a sunset in Greece, I earned back in study sessions that ended after midnight. The exchange rate was not fair, but I had stopped looking for fair the night my father put a suitcase on the kitchen table. Fair was a concept for families that loved their children equally. I came from one that loved conveniently. I got into Ohio State Moritz College of Law on a partial scholarship and a stack of student loans thick enough to wallpaper my bathroom. Law school was harder than undergrad. Not the coursework, the isolation. Everyone around me had parents who called on Sundays, who sent care packages, who attended moot court competitions in the back row with proud smiles and cell phone cameras. My phone stayed quiet. Second year. I landed a summer internship at a small firm in Columbus that specialized in elder law, estate planning, guardianship, Medicaid qualification, power of attorney, the unsexy side off the legal world, the side that smells like nursing homes and filing cabinets. My first case was a 78-year-old woman named Ruth, whose adult son had been siphoning money from her accounts for 3 years. He had power of attorney and used it to drain $86,000 while she sat in a memory care facility and wondered why her cable got disconnected. I read the bank statements. I traced the withdrawals. I sat in a courtroom and watched a judge remove the son as fiduciary agent and appoint a professional trustee. Walking to my car after the hearing, I stopped in the parking lot and thought about my own parents. Did they have a will, a power of attorney, a healthcare directive? Had Gerald, the engineer who planned everything, planned for the one thing nobody wants to talk about? I called Diane that night. Mom, does Dad have an estate plan? Silence, then sharp. Why would you ask that? Are you hoping we die soon? She hung up. The call lasted 43 seconds. I stared at my phone and thought, this is what happens when families do not plan, when love is not enough and money is not organized. I spent that entire summer helping strangers protect their families from exactly the kind of chaos my own family was building. Graduation day, May, warm. The kind of Ohio spring that makes you forget winter exists. Derek, my boyfriend by then, a high school history teacher with a crooked smile and a talent for staying calm, sat in the third row. Aunt Margaret sat beside him, wearing a purple blazer she had bought specifically for this. 2 seats to their left stayed empty. I had sent invitations 8 weeks in advance, hand-dressed envelopes with gold seals because I wanted it to feel like something that mattered. Gerald did not respond. Diane texted 3 days before. Paige has the flu. I need to stay and take care of her. You understand. Paige texted the morning of, congrats. Mom says she is proud, but she has got a migraine. A migraine? My mother could not be bothered to fabricate a better excuse. I crossed the stage, shook the dean's hand, and smiled for the camera. Margaret cried. Derek whistled so loud the family behind him flinched. Those were my people, 2 of them. I passed the bar that October, joined a small elder law firm in Columbus called Adler and Rhodes, 3 attorneys, 1 paralegal, a waiting room with fake plants and real problems. 2 years later, Paige opened her boutique. Paige and Company, a clothing store on a strip mall in Kettering funded by the last $60,000 from her trust fund, plus an $80,000 small business loan that Gerald and Diana co-signed. She invited me to the grand opening. I said I could not make it. I had depositions. Diane called that same night. You cannot do one thing for your sister. You could not do one thing for me at graduation. The line went quiet. Then you did not need us there. You never needed anyone. She hung up. She did not call back. 6 years, 2,190 days of nothing. And then my phone rang. 6 years is a long time to be nobody's daughter. I did not disappear. I did not change my number or move across the country. I just stopped chasing people who were walking away from me. In those 6 years, I made partner track at Adler and Rhodes. Derek and I got married at the Franklin Park Conservatory. 32 guests, a jazz trio, and a cake from a bakery on High Street that used real buttercream. We bought a townhouse in German Village with a red front door and a backyard the size of a postage stamp. I planted tomatoes every April. On the other side of those 6 years, Paige's boutique lasted 18 months. Turns outselling $60 candles and linen pants in a strip mall between a nail salon, and a Subway does not generate the revenue stream a business plan requires. The trust fund hit zero. The $80,000 loan went delinquent. Gerald and Diane, who had co-signed, started paying it from their retirement savings. Paige moved in with her boyfriend Brad in Cincinnati. Brad sold insurance and talked about cryptocurrency at dinner parties. They split the rent. Paige worked part-time at a home goods store. Margaret kept mute-dated, not gossip dispatches. Your father is getting forgetful, she texted one March. He left the stove on twice last week. Your mother pretends everything is fine, she said in October. She will not talk about money. She will not talk about you. He forgot my name at Christmas. She told me in January and I had to set the phone down for a minute. I did not call. Not because I did not care, because every time I thought about picking up the phone, I heard my mother's voice. You did not need us. Yao never needed anyone. And I would set it back down. In 6 years, I built a career. Paige built debt. And our parents built nothing. No plan, no will, no trust. The irony would have been funny if it did not keep me awake some nights. Derek asked me once on a Sunday morning when we were painting the guest room and the radio was playing something soft whether I missed them. I missed the idea of them, I said. The version of them that would have shown up to graduation. The version that would have split the trust fund evenly or at least explained why they did not. I miss parents I never actually had. He did not press. He just handed me the roller and kept painting. That was Derek. He understood that some wounds do not need discussion. They need witness. I kept the gray suitcase in our hall closet bottom shelf behind the vacuum. Sometimes I looked at it when I was pulling out the coats in October. It sat there like an artifact from a different life. Proof of a girl who left home with nothing and did not look back. Except I did look back. I just never let anyone see me do it. It was a Tuesday afternoon in September, 3:47. I know the exact time because I was billing a client in 6-nut increments when my phone buzzed against the desk. The screen read, Mom. I stared at it for 4 rings. My hand hovered. My paralegal looked up. I picked up on the 5th ring. Audrey. Her voice sounded older, thinner, like someone had stretched it too far. Mom, forced casual. She asked how I was, asked about the weather in Columbus, made a comment about fall leaves. 30 seconds of small talk from a woman who had not spoken to me in 6 years. Then she cleared her throat. Your father has been diagnosed. Early onset Alzheimer's. He is 62. The room tilted. Not dramatically, just a slight shift, like the floor had been moved 1/2 inch to the left. I gripped the edge of my desk. When? 8 months ago. 8 months. 240 days. Gerald had been losing his mind for 8 months, and nobody had told me. 8 months ago, and you are calling me now. We did not want to worry you. I closed my eyes. Classic Diane framing my exclusion as protection. She had not kept me in the dark to spare me. She had kept me in the dark because calling me meant admitting she needed me. How bad is it? He has good days and bad days. Some days he knows where he is. Some days he thinks he is still at the plant. Does he know who you are? A pause. Too long most days. Does he know who Paige is? Longer pause. He has not recognized Paige in 2 months. Then she said the thing I had been waiting 16 years to hear. Not I am sorry. Not I was wrong. We need your help, Audrey. I switched into attorney mode the way you switch lanes on the highway. Smooth, automatic, no signal necessary. Does Dad have a durable power of attorney? A what? A legal document that lets someone make financial decisions for him when he cannot make them himself. I do not think so. A health air directive. A document that specifies his medical wishes if he becomes incapacitated. Audrey, I do not know what any of that means. A will. Your father always said he would get to it. I pulled a legal pad from my drawer and started writing. Every answer was another crack in the foundation. What about the house? Silence. The kind of silence that has weight. We did a reverse mortgage 3 years ago. I set my pen down. A reverse mortgage meant they had borrowed against the equity in the house. The house Gerald had paid off in 2011 after 27 years of mortgage payments. They had taken that achievement and turned it back into debt. Why? Paige's loan, the co-signed one. We had to make the payments when the boutique closed. So the $200,000 in trust fund money was gone. The $80,000 in co-signed debt was being paid with the equity from the family home. And Gerald, who had planned everything except the one thing that mattered, was losing the ability to plan anything at all. Mom, you need an elder law attorney. I know. That is why I called you. Paige said you could just fix it. You are the lawyer. I leaned back in my chair, stared at the ceiling tiles, counted to 5. My mother spoke about legal documents the way a child speaks about monsters under the bed, as if nomming them might make them real. The tragedy was that the monsters were already inside the house. 2 days later, Thursday evening, I was making pasta when my phone lit up with a number I had not seen in years. Paige, no greeting. No, how have you been? She started talking before I finished saying hello. So Mom told you about Dad. Look, we need you to come home and handle the legal stuff. I would do it, but I do not understand any of that. I turned off the burner. You could hire an attorney. With what money? The boutique took everything, and Mom and Dad used their savings to cover my loans. I let that sit for a second. She had said it like a weather report. Matter of fact, no guilt. Like the financial ruin of 2 elderly parents was just something that happened the way rain happens. So you want me to do it for free? You are family, Audrey. That is what family does. Family. The word landed on the kitchen counter between us like a brick. Derrick looked up from grading papers at the dining table. He could hear her voice from 3 ft away. Family, I said. Is that what we are, Paige? Defensive immediately. Do not start. You are the one who disappeared. I did not disappear. I stopped calling people who never called back. Whatever. Can you help or not? Then she said it casual, like tossing a napkin. I have been managing Dad's finances since the diagnosis. Bill paying, grocery runs, that kind of thing. My legal instincts caught the phrase before my sister instincts could dismiss it. Managing Dad's finances. An elder law attorney hears that sentence the way a fire marshal hears someone say, I was just playing with matches. Managing them how? Just, helping. I told her I would think about it. I hung up and looked at Derrick. I need to go home. I sat at my desk that night and thought about all the families I had helped over the years. Families torn apart by exactly this. No planning, no communication, just assumptions and hope. I had built my entire career on cleaning up these messes, untangling what love and neglect had knotted together. And now it was my own family's turn. If you have ever been the strong one when everyone else falls apart, you know this feeling. Hit subscribe. The box arrived on a Friday. FedEx, brown cardboard, no return label, just TR written in my mother's handwriting across the top in black marker. No letter inside, no note, just a yellow post-it stuck to the first folder. I do not know what to do. I carried it to the kitchen table. Derrick cleared his papers. We sat across from each other, and I opened the box the way you open a wound, carefully, knowing it was going to hurt. Bank statements first. Checking account balance $347. Savings account 0. A savings account that Gerald had maintained at $15,000 for 30 years. Emptied. Reverse mortgage documents. The house on Millbrook Drive appraised at $280,000 now leveraged at $210,000. $70,000 in equity left. Maybe if the market held. Co-signed business loan from First Horizon Bank. $80,000. $4 months past due. Collection letters with red stamps. Final notice on 3 of them. Medical bills. $42,000. Specialist visits, cognitive testing, an MRI, a neuropsych evaluation. Gerald's employer insurance had lapsed when he took early retirement at 60. There was a gap 14 months before Medicare kicked in. Nobody had bought supplemental coverage. And then the credit card statements, 3 cards. Total balance $28,000. I pulled them closer, ran my finger down the charges. Zara, Nordstrom Rack, DoorDash 4, 5, 6 times a week, a wine subscription, a gym membership at a place called Fit Life Cincinnati. My parents live in Dayton. Derrick leaned over. Those charges are not from your parents, are they? No. I set the statement down. Someone has been using my father's credit cards, and it is not my father. I sat in that kitchen for a long time after Derrick went to bed. The stack of documents in front of me, the post-it note on top. I do not know what to do. The world is your trust fund, my father had said. Turns out his world did not even have a safety net. I called Diane the next morning, Saturday, 8:15. I'm coming home this weekend. I need to see everything in person. She exhaled. Relief mixed with something else. Nervousness, maybe. The sound of someone who got what they asked for and was not sure they wanted it anymore. Should I tell Paige? Do not tell Paige anything yet. That afternoon, I sat with Derrick at the kitchen table, the same table where I had spread my parents' financial wreckage the night before. You sure about this? He said. My father cannot protect himself. Someone has to. That is literally my job. He nodded. He did not argue. Derrick was the kind of man who understood that some decisions are not up for debate. They are obligations wearing disguises. I packed my briefcase that evening. Not the gray suitcase, the briefcase. Leather, black, a graduation gift from Margot with my initials embossed in gold on the clasp. Inside, a legal pad, blue pens, a portable scanner, and a checklist I had used for 100 clients. Durable power of attorney, healthcare directive, Medicaid planning worksheet, asset inventory, creditor communication log. The checklist fit on one page of questions that could protect an entire life. Gerald had never filled out a single one. I set the briefcase by the front door. Beside it, under the hall table, sat the gray Samsonite. I had not opened it in years. It just lived there like a fossil. I did not pack the suitcase. I packed the briefcase because I was not going home as a daughter. It was going home as the only person in that family who could read a bank statement. 90 minutes on I-7 West. Same highway Gerald had driven me to college on. Same flat Ohio farmland. Same rest stop at mile marker 47 where he had bought me a gas station coffee and told me about tire pressure. I pulled into the driveway at 11:20 in the morning. The house looked tired, paint peeling along the eaves, lawn uneven, half-mowed, like someone had started and forgotten. The garage door hung crooked on one track. Diane opened the front door before I reached the porch. She looked 10 years older than the woman in my memory. Gray roots in hair that used to be salon blonde every 6 weeks. A cardigan that hung off her shoulders like it belonged to someone larger. She hugged me, awkward and too tight. The way you hug someone when you know you owe them something but cannot name it, I let her. I did not hug back hard, but I did not pull away. He is in the living room, she said. Gerald sat in a brown recliner television tuned to a channel showing old westerns. He wore khaki pants and a flannel shirt pressed because Diane still ironed his clothes. He looked up when I walked in. Are you the new nurse? I stopped, gripped the strap of my briefcase. No, Dad, I am Audrey. He studied me. Pleasant, curious, like I was a stranger at a bus stop. That is a nice name. My daughter's name is Audrey. She is in college. He thought I was still 18. Somewhere in his mind, I was still the girl with the suitcase heading out the door. The Old Spice hit me then. Same aftershave, same warm, spicy smell that had clung to every hug he ever gave me. The scent was the same. Everything behind it had changed. I sat with Diane at the kitchen table. Same chairs. 16 years, and nothing in this room had changed except the people. I spread the documents from the FedEx box across the surface, organized by category. Banking on the left, mortgage in the center, medical bills on the right, credit cards at the far end. Walk me through it, I said. Professional voice, the voice E used with clients, no will, no power of attorney, no healthcare directive, no life insurance. Gerald had let the policy lapse 7 years ago. No long-term care insurance. The reverse mortgage was eating $360 a month in interest. The cosign loan was 4 months delinquent, and First Horizon had sent a demand letter threatening legal action. I wrote it all down, column after column of absence. Then I looked at her. Mom, if something happens to Dad, if he needs a nursing home, Medicaid will look back 5 years at every dollar you have spent, every transfer, every gift. She went pale. What does that mean? It means the $200,000 you gave Paige that is outside the look-back window. It was 16 years ago, but the cosign loan from 3 years ago that is inside it. Medicaid could treat it as a transferred asset. I do not understand. It means the trust fund you set up for Paige could affect whether Dad qualifies for Medicaid coverage. The money you gave her to be safe might be the thing that makes you unsafe. Diane stared at head documents. Her hands were shaking. You did not need us, Audrey, she said, quiet, almost a whisper. Paige needed us. I set my pen down, looked at her across 16 years of silence and a table full of paper. Mom, look at this table, look at these numbers. You both needed me. You just did not know it. That afternoon. I asked Diane for the login to Gerald's credit card portal. She found it written on a Post-it inside his desk drawer. Username and password in High's handwriting back when his handwriting was still steady. I logged in on my laptop. 6 months of statements, $28,000 in charges. I scrolled through them slowly the way I would for a client. Zara, $112. Cincinnati. Nordstrom Rack, $247. Cincinnati. DoorDash, $38, $42, $29. All Cincinnati, a wine subscription, $45 a month. FitLife Cincinnati, $59 a month. Mom, I said without looking up. Does Dad shop at Zara? What is Zara? Does Paige have a card linked to this account? Long pause. The kind of pause that answers textion before the words do. She was supposed to use it for groceries when she comes up to help with your father. Mom. Paige spent $28,000 on Dad's credit card in 6 months. None of it was groceries. Diane stood up, sat down, stood up again. Her hands found the back of the chair and gripped. She said she would pay it back. This is not borrowing, Mom. Under Ohio law, this is financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Dad has Alzheimer's. He cannot consent to these charges. Paige wassetted to the account to help, and she used it to shop. Diane started crying, but here is the part that will stay with me forever. She did not cry for Gerald. She did not cry for the $28,000. She did not cry for the fact that her husband's mind was disappearing and his money was following it. She cried for Paige. Do not report her, please. She is your sister. I looked at my mother, the woman who gave one daughter everything and the other daughter a suitcase. She is the sister who got $200,000 and she still could not stop taking. I spent the rest of that weekend at the kitchen table. Derek texted, "How bad?" I texted back, "Bring your grading. I will be here a while." I drafted the durable power of attorney first, named Diane as primary agent and myself as secondary, meaning if Diane could not serve or chose not to, I would step in. I made it springing, activated by a physician certification that Gerald lacked capacity. Clean, defensible, then the healthcare directive. I sat with Diane and asked the questions nobody wants to answer. Does Gerald want to be resuscitated? Does he want a feeding tube, ventilator? She cried through most of it. I wrote down her answers in neat handwriting. Next, and this was the hard one. I called Gerald's credit card companies, removed Paige as an authorized user on all 3 accounts, set up transaction alerts on Diane's phone, froze new charges above $100 without Diane's approval. Then I drafted the irrevocable trust. This was the document that mattered most. By transferring the house into the trust now, while Gerald still had some periods of lucidity and could sign with a notary present, we could protect it from Medicaid estate recovery later. If Gerald ever needed nursing home care, which statistically he would, Medicaid could not claw back the house. The family home would survive even if the family finances did not. I called First Horizon about the cosign loan, explained the situation. Primary borrower's business failed. Co-signature elderly, one with a cognitive diagnosis. The representative transferred me to a supervisor. The supervisor transferred me to a workout specialist. I negotiated a 6-month forbearance and a restructured payment plan at reduced interest. 47 minutes on hold. Worth every second. When I hung up, Diane was standing in the doorway watching me. "You know all of this," she said. "How?" "Because I spent 10 years learning how to protect people whose families failed them." She flinched. A small involuntary movement like touching a hot pan. She opened her mouth, closed it, walked back to the living room where Gerald was watching westerns. I did not say it to hurt her, but the truth has a weight of its own, and my mother felt every ounce. Paige showed up on Sunday afternoon without calling first. Her Honda Civic pulled into the driveway at 2:15 while I was reviewing Medicaid eligibility worksheets at the kitchen table. She walked through the front door, saw my briefcase open, saw the documents spread across the table, and stopped. What the hell is all this? Estate planning documents, the ones Mom and Dad should have had years ago. She picked up a paper from the stack, the credit card cancellation notice, her name highlighted in yellow. "You canceled my card, Dad's card. The Dad can no longer consent to sharing." Paige set the paper down. Her face changed. The way a sky changes before a storm. You show up after 6 years and start making decisions. Who gave you the right? No one gave me the right. I earned it. It is called a law degree. You always thought you were better than us. No, I just thought I deserved the same chance Paige got. Turns out I was the only one who actually used it. She stepped closer. You have no idea what it has been like here. Watching Dad forget. Helping Mom with everything while you sat in your fancy office in Columbus pretending we do not exist. Helping with everything, I repeated. Is that what you call $28,000 in charges at Zara and Nordstrom Rack? She went white, mouth open, no sound. I found the statement's page. Every charge, every receipt, all from Cincinnati, all on Dad's cards. She grabbed her keys from the counter. This is not what it looks like. It looks exactly like what it is. She slammed the front door so hard the picture frames in the hallway rattled. Gerald startled in his recliner. "Who is fighting?" he said. "I do not like fighting." Through the window, I watched Paige sit in her car for 2 full minutes before driving away. Her hands gripped the steering wheel. They were shaking. Margaret called that evening. Her voice had the tone of Somion, who has been waiting all day for a phone to ring. I heard Paige went ballistic. She left before I could finish explaining the POA documents. "Audrey," Margaret paused, "you know she's going to make a scene at Thanksgiving." "Thanksgiving? Your mother invited you. She told me to tell you because she is too proud to ask herself." I looked at Derrick across the living room. He was reading on the couch pretending not to listen. He raised his eyebrows. "When?" "Thursday, the whole family. Fill me, Emma, Ryan. Your mother wants it to feel normal, like nothing has changed." "Everything has changed, I know. But Diane needs to sign those documents, does she not?" Margaret was sharper than people gave her credit for. She understood what I needed without me spelling it out. If Paige contests the power of attorney later, I need witnesses who saw Mom sign willingly. I said, "Family members, more than one, in a setting where nobody is coerced." A family dinner. A family dinner with a legal signing after dessert. Derrick set his book down. "Are we going?" I looked at her briefcase on our dining table. Inside it were documents that could protect my father from creditors, from Medicaid clawback, from his own oldest daughter. Documents that would have taken Gerald 5 hours and $300 to prepare 10 years ago. Documents he never made. We are going. I did not want an audience for drama. I needed witnesses for a legal proceeding. That Paige would turn it into a performance was predictable. I just needed the signatures before the curtain went up. Here is what I have learned in 10 years of elder law. Families do not fall apart overnight. They crack slowly under the weight of conversations nobody wants to have. Wills, power of attorney, end-of-life wishes. The documents feel cold, clinical, like paperwork for a world you do not want to think about, but they are the warmest thing you can give someone you love. If you are watching this and you do not have yours in order, pause this video and make a note, then come back. Thanksgiving morning, Derrick drove. I sat in the passenger seat with the briefcase on my lap. Inside it, the finalized durable power of attorney, Gerald's healthcare directive, a new irrevocable trust I had drafted to protect the house from Medicaid estate recovery. The trust would hold title to the Millbrook Drive property, removing it from Gerald's countable assets, and a restructured family budget that eliminated the cosign loan payments within 18 months. Also inside, printouts of Gerald's credit card statements from the past 6 months, highlighted annotated, $28,000 in charges that mapped to Paige's zip code. I called Margaret from the car. "Is Paige there?" "She showed up an hour ago. She has been whispering with your mother in the kitchen." "Your mother looks nervous." "Nervous about what?" "About you." Derrick glanced over. "You know she's going to say something, I know. That is why every document in this briefcase has 3 signature lines. Diane signs, 2 witnesses attest. We turned onto Millbrook Drive at 4:15. The house had a wreath on the door that Diane must have put up that morning. Silk flowers, a red bow, an attempt at normal. I stepped out of the car, looked at the house. Same white siding, same crooked garage door. Same driveway Gerald used to seal every spring. Inside, the hall closet was open. I could see it from the porch. Coats, scarves, a vacuum cleaner, and there, pushed to the back, the gray Samsonite suitcase, still there after 16 years. Nobody had moved it. Nobody had thrown it away. It just lived in the back of the closet, forgotten like me. I picked up my briefcase and walked inside. That Thanksgiving table could seat 8 if you squeezed. Diane had squeezed. Gerald at the head, wearing a pressed button-y down and a confused smile. Diane to his right, hovering with a water pitcher. Paige and Brad across from me and Derek. Aunt Margaret and Uncle Phil at the far end. Cousins Emma and Ryan had called in late. Emma was driving up from Cincinnati. Ryan was stuck at work and would miss dinner. 7 people, a turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole from a recipe Diane had been using since 1994, cranberry sauce canned, the kind that keeps the shape of the container. The surface was pleasant. Brad talked about the Bengals. Phil asked Derek about teaching. Diane kept refilling water glasses that were already full. Gerald ate slowly. He smiled at people. He called Margaret by the right name. He called Paige sweetheart. He called me miss. More turkey, miss. Sure, Dad. He did not correct me. He did not notice. Paige watched me across the table the way a cat watches a door. Every time I moved, reaching for bread, adjusting my napkin, her eyes tracked. Brad, to his credit, tried to keep things light. He told a story about a client who crashed a brand new truck into a barn 3 days after the insurance kicked in. Phil laughed. Derek offered a polite chuckle. Diane smiled so hard it looked painful. Under the table, my briefcase sat against my chair leg like a loaded weapon. I had positioned it there deliberately. Right side, easy reach, 12 years of courtroom habit. Paige cut through Brad's punchline like a blade through wrapping paper. So nice of you to finally visit, Audrey, she said halfway through the meal. Casual loaded 6 years, right? Better late than never. I sliced my turkey. Better late than never. That is what I keep telling my clients about estate planning. Margaret coughed into her napkin. Brad looked between us. Am I missing something? No, Diane said quickly. Everything is fine. Who wants more potatoes? The cranberry sauce sat in the center of the table untouched. Next to it, my briefcase leaned against the leg of my chair. We made it through the turkey and 2 sides before Paige said the thing that broke the table. Paige set down her wine glass, 3rd glass. The sound it made against the table was sharper than it should have been. You know what? I am going to say it. Everyone is thinking it. Paige, Diane's voice was a warning. Do not, no, Mom, I am done pretending. She pointed at me with her fork. Audrey disappeared for 6 years. 6 years. Dad got sick and she did not come. You had to beg her to show up. And now Schultzy is in with her little briefcase and starts canceling credit cards and rearranging everything like she owns the place. Brad straightened up. She canceled your credit card, my credit card. The one I use for Dad's groceries. Margaret set her fork down. Phil leaned back in his chair. Derek placed his hand on my knee under the table, a quiet anchor. Paige was not done. You left this family, Audrey, you left. And now you want to come back and play savior. You are not a savior. You are a vulture, circling around, waiting for Dad to die so you can pick through whatever is left. She was shaking, wine sloshing against the sides of her glass. Her face was flushed, not from embarrassment, but from the kind of anger that builds when you know you are guilty and decide the best defense is a louder offense. The table went silent. The kind of silent where you can hear the furnace click on in the basement, where you can hear a fork settle against a plate 3 seats away. Gerald looked around the table, his face clouded with distress he could not name. Who is fighting? He said soft, almost childlike. I do not like fighting. I looked at my father, at the man who had given me a suitcase and called it a trust fund, at the man who could no longer remember my name, but still remembered he did not like conflict. I wiped my mouth with my napkin, set it beside my plate, and stood up. Excuse me for a moment. I walked to the hallway, picked up my briefcase, walked back to the dining room, and set it on the table next to the cranberry sauce. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. I'm going to correct a few things, I said. Lo, even the voice I use in depositions when the opposing counsel starts grandstanding. And then I am going to show you why I am here. I looked at Paige, looked at my mother, looked at Margaret, who gave me the smallest nod. First, I did not leave this family. I was handed a suitcase and told the world was my trust fund. I took you at your word. I just do not think you expected me to actually collect. Gerald stared at his plate. Brad's mouth was open. Phil had his arms crossed. Second, I did not cancel your credit card, Paige. I canceled Dad's credit card because Dad has Alzheimer's and can no longer consent to charges. And in the last 6 months, $28,000 were charged to his accounts. I opened the briefcase, pulled out the printed statements, laid them on the table between the green beans and the gravy boat. Zara, Nordstrom Rack, DoorDash, a wine subscription, a gym membership at Fit Life Cincinnati, all from your zip code, Paige. None of it groceries. None of it for Dad. Paige's face lost its color slowly, like someone had pulled a plug. That is not I was going to pay it back. Under Ohio Revised Code Section 2913.02 and the Adult Protective Services Act, what you have been doing has a name. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. I have seen it 100 times in my office. The excuse is always the same. I was going to pay it back. Brad pulled his chair 6 and away from Paige. A small movement, enormous meaning. Wait, he said. Paige, what is she talking about? She is exaggerating. I have the statements, Paige. Every charge, every date, every dollar. Margaret exhaled. Phil shook his head slowly. I set my hands flat on the table. Calm, level, the quieter I spoke, the louder it landed. You told me to fix it. You are the lawyer. Those were your words, so I did. I fixed it. I reached into the briefcase and pulled out the document folder, blue tabs labeled. The kind of organized that takes 10 years of practice and 1 weekend of heartbreak. Mom, I set the folder on the table. Same spot where Gerald had once placed a gray suitcase. I have prepared everything Dad should have had years ago. I fanned the documents like a hand of cards. Durable power of attorney. This allows you to make financial decisions for Dad now that he cannot make them himself. You are primary agent. I am secondary. Backup if anything happens to you. I slid the next document forward. Healthcare directive. Dad's medical wishes based on what you told me last weekend. Resuscitation preferences. End-of-life care, ventilator, feeding tube, everything documented, everything legal. The next one, an irrevocable trust. I paused. Let the words settle. This trust will hold the house. It protects Millbrook Drive from Medicaid estate recovery. If Dad needs nursing home care, it means you do not lose the house. Diane pressed her hand to her mouth. The same gesture she had made 20 years ago when she watched Gerald hand Paige the trust fund check. But this time she was not crying from joy. An era-structured budget, a payment plan for the cosign loan. 18 months to clear it. I closed the briefcase. All of this is pro bono because despite everything, he is still my father and someone in this family has to plan for the future. Margaret stood up. I will witness the signatures. Phil nodded. Same. Diane looked at the documents, at the trust, at the irony of it. Her daughter, the one who received nothing, building a trust fund for the parents who had denied her one. She picked up the pen I had placed beside the folder. Her hand trembled, but she signed. After the signing, after Margaret and Phil witnessed and dated their lines, after Brad quietly left through the front door without saying goodbye, after Gerald asked if there was pumpkin pie, Diane found me in the kitchen. I was rinsing dishes, an old habit. I always cleaned up after dinner in this house. Some patterns survive a decade of silence. Audrey, I turned off the water. I told myself you did not need us. Her voice was small, stripped, nothing left to hide behind because it was easier than admitting I chose wrong. I dried my hands on the dish towel, folded it, set it on the counter. I was not trying to hurt you, she said. I was trying to save Paige. I thought if we gave her enough, she would be okay. And I thought you would be fine no matter what. I am fine, Mom, but not because of you. In spite of you, she crumbled. Not dramatically, quietly, the way old houses settle, a slow cave inward. She put her hands on the counter and bowed her head and made a sound that was not quite crying and not quite breathing. She did not say sorry. She said she chose wrong and that was the closest she had ever come to seeing me. I did not hug her. I was not ready, but I did not leave the room either. Through the kitchen window, I could see Paige sitting on the porch steps, alone, arms wrapped around her knees. The street light caught her face. She was talking to herself, or maybe just thinking out loud. I could barely hear it through the glass. I was scared of being nothing without the money. One sentence, quiet enough to miss, honest enough to hurt. Paige was a villain in this story. She was also a victim of the same parents who had failed me, just from the opposite direction. Too much protection had left her just as broken as too little. I did not go out to her. Some conversations are not ready yet. 3 weeks later, the documents were filed with the Franklin County Probate Court. Gerald had a durable power of attorney and a health care directive. The house on Millbrook Drive was titled in Irrevocable Trust, protected from Medicaid estate recovery. First Horizon accepted the restructured payment plan, $4,700 a month for 18 months. Paige's access to Gerald's credit cards was permanently revoked. The $28,000 in charges sat on a spreadsheet I kept in a locked file. I did not report her. Not because she was my sister, because Gerald would not have wanted it. Even the Gerald who could not remember my name would not have wanted his daughter prosecuted. Paige sent a bank transfer 3 weeks after Thanksgiving. $4,200, first installment. The memo line said one word. Sorry, lowercase. No period. The smallest apology I had ever seen. But it was money, not words. And money was something Paige understood better than language. Diane called me every Thursday at 7 in the evening. We did not talk about the past. We talked about Gerald's medication schedule. His good days when he remembered the name of the dog they had in 1998. His bad days when he tried to leave the house at 3:00 in the morning to drive to a job he had not held in 4 years. I answered every call not because I had forgiven everything, because answering the phone was the boundary I had set. I will be your father's attorney. I will be your estate planner. But I will not be the daughter who pretends the suitcase never happened. Deanne accepted that. She did not push. For the first time in my life, my mother respected a line I had drawn. Progress is not forgiveness, but it is a start. December, Gerald's birthday, 63, Derrick and I drove to Dayton. I brought a carrot cake from the bakery on High Street, the same bakery that made our wedding cake. Gerald did not know that. He did not remember our wedding, but he remembered that he liked carrot cake because some things live deeper than memory. After dinner, I sat beside him in the living room. The television was off. Deanne was in the kitchen wrapping leftovers. Gerald reached over and took my hand. His grip was warm, steady, stronger than I expected from a man whose mind was unraveling. Old Spice flannel shirt, the lamp on the side table casting amber light across his face. You did good, kid. 4 words clear as a bell, no confusion, no searching. He looked at me and he knew. Then he was gone again. His eyes drifted to the window. His hand stayed in mine, but the man behind the grip had retreated to wherever he goes when the present becomes too heavy. I held his hand. I did not cry. I just held on. Driving home, Derek reached across the console and squeezed my shoulder. The highway was dark. The road was flat. Ohio stretched out in every direction like a promise nobody made. I used to think the suitcase was punishment, an empty verdict from a father who did not think I was worth investing in. But maybe it was the only honest thing my father ever gave me, an empty container and permission to fill it myself. That is my story. 16 years, 1 suitcase, and a stack of documents that held my family together when nothing else could. If you have ever been the one who had to build everything from nothing and then go back and save the people who gave you nothing, you know this feeling. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next.